So I have here the practice document that you could download from the link. Before we get into the specifics of the problem, I do want to note that both this and the actual assignment that you'll open in the next quiz, remember this is the practice assignment to get you used to the format, you'll take the actual quiz next, are 2-page where formulas are provided on the second page. And they even give you some hints of how to type this into your calculator. I'll also show that on the screen here. So let's go over this problem. So again, this is practice for the real practice or the real quiz. The real quiz will be a similar format except the numbers will be different. So here it says this family has decided to purchase a home. They qualify for a mortgage of $147,000. They've got a 30-year mortgage at 5.75%, 5% down, and 1.5 points due at closing. And remember we covered earlier, 1 point is 1% of the loan amount. So let's find our down payment first. So we have 5% of $147,000 mortgage. We know to find the percent of a number, you change the percent to a decimal place. So that goes to 0.05. And you take that value and you multiply it by the 147,000. We'll do that in our calculator. And we should get 7,350 as that answer. Notice you write your answers here. So the amount financed, that's saying how much do you actually get the loan for. So you take the purchase price of $147,000 and you subtract your down payment because we're paying that in cash up front. Watch out for calculator errors here, typing things in. And we get the amount financed should be at $139,650. And then the amount due to points, well, we have 1.5% of the amount financed, the loan amount. Well, to find the percent of a number, you take the percentage, move the decimal place over twice. That will give you a decimal of 0.15. So we do 0.015 times the loan amount. And we should get $2,094.75. Okay. So we've made those calculations here. Now we read the next section and it says they actually decide to go with a different lender. This lender qualifies for a $148,000 mortgage at 30 years at 5.35%, nothing down and no points. What's their monthly house payment? And then we also have to figure out how much would they have paid at the end of 30 years, round to the nearest dollar. Okay, let's super highlight that. Nearest dollar is how we should round. And now I actually look and I see it said round to nearest dollar here. That didn't apply for the first two. They were naturally in whole numbers. But I need to round this to the nearest dollar. Look at the decimal place after there. That's a 5 or greater, so this rounds up. 2095. So round to nearest dollar. We'll be sure to round to nearest dollar here. Let me, in the space below, grab the formula that's provided on the second page so we can look at the same screen. So from the second page, I found the regular monthly payment, and I've included that here. So we need to identify our principal. The principal for this problem is the loan amount. Since it's 0 down, the whole loan is the $148,000. We're not putting anything down in this example. The rate as a decimal, 5.35, move the decimal place over twice. That's 0.0535. The number of payments, well, there's 12 payments each year. So the number of payments in a year is 12. The time, it did say it's a 30-year loan. So that's 30. So with this new value, I'm going to substitute these into the equation. And personally, I'm going to type out the parentheses as I need so that I can just follow them in my calculator. For each fraction, I have the parentheses for the top of the fraction, the parentheses for the bottom of the fraction. For the exponent, I'm going to keep the exponent in parentheses, and I'm going to keep the top and the bottom of the fraction in parentheses as well. And as I've mentioned in our lecture video, if you have a higher powered calculator, some of these parentheses aren't necessary, but for my on-screen calculator, it makes everything stay together properly. So my top parentheses for the top of the fraction, I put in the principal, 148,000. The rate as a decimal, well, that's going to go in my top parentheses. Close the top parentheses, divided by the bottom is the 12. Now this closes my fraction parentheses, and then I do one more parentheses for my overall top of the fraction, divided by parentheses for the bottom of the fraction, 1 minus the parenthesis for this two-term idea, 1 plus, okay, my overall parentheses for this fraction. The top of the fraction is the rate, 0.0535. Close the top parentheses, divided by the bottom is the number of payments in a year, 12. Close those parentheses. Close the overall fraction parentheses, and now I'm going to do my exponent. My exponent needs to be in parentheses as well, negative 12 times 30. Close the exponent parentheses, and then finally close the bottom of the fraction parentheses. So let's type this into the calculator as we have it written, parentheses 148,000. I'm going to try to make sure, double check so we don't make any mistakes. Parentheses for the fraction, parentheses for the top of the fraction. Close the top of the fraction, divided by parentheses for the bottom, 12. Close the bottom of the fraction. Close the overall fraction. Close the top of the overall fraction parentheses, divided by parentheses 1 minus parentheses 1 plus parentheses for this one. And now we do our top of the fraction parentheses. Close the top of the fraction parentheses, divided by bottom of the fraction parentheses, close that. Close the overall fraction parentheses. Now I do my exponent, and now I need the exponent parentheses, negative 12 times 30. Close the exponent parentheses, and then finally close the fraction parentheses. And we'll get this value. Now we know we need to round this to the nearest dollar, it says. So the value after the decimal place is a 4, so that's going to round down and stay the same, so that'll be 826 when rounded. So the monthly payment is about 826. Now the total paid, you take the monthly payment, figure out how much you pay in a year, so multiply it by 12, multiply that by 30, and for this, take your rounded value. Don't use the unrounded value, otherwise the additional cents multiplied by 12 and multiplied by 30 could take the value off. And we get 297,360. So the total amount of interest paid is our total amount. And then you subtract the amount of the loan. The amount of the loan was the exact purchase price because we didn't put any money down in this scenario. So we take the 297,360, subtract the 148,000. And that'll be 149,360. And it says, while this interest amount paid could be alarming, let's compare the cost to renting for a very simplified example. Suppose we're renting a 3-bed, 2-bath apartment for $1,250 a month for 30 years. Now keep in mind this is a very simplified example because it assumes rent never goes up, but in reality it does go up every so often. So how much rent is paid in 30 years? Well, we take the monthly rent, multiply it by 12, multiply it by 30, and we will get $1,250 times 12 times 30, $450,000. So in this example, at the end of 30 years, we still pay more for the rented version versus the mortgage for this amount. So that's an overview of how we would go through this assignment. It covers the topics that we already covered earlier in our personal finance section, but we've kind of got two main things. We first calculate, can you find the down payment for a set value, the amount financed, the amount due to points? And then the problem kind of resets to make sure if we used all the same values and if you made an error here, it would show up later on, even if you were doing later calculations correct. So the problem resets, so make sure you use the new values. And with these reset values of a certain mortgage, 30 years at an interest rate, and for this example, it was nothing down and no points, we found the monthly payment, the total paid at the end of 30 years. We then calculated the amount just due to interest. And then finally, the third part of this example practice is we calculated how much would we pay in a flat rate of rent over 30 years. And that's all there is to this assignment. The second page of this assignment is just a reminder of some of the formulas you can use to calculate with. So the last part of this assignment is you're going to get your answer to this. If you are able to digitally write on the screen like I am, you can just save this as a PDF, upload this as a file to the practice assignment, do the same for the real assignment. If you have access to a printer, you could print this out, write in it by hand, and then you can use many phones have an app where you can scan a photo to a file, so you can look at some of those scanning apps, upload that file then to this assignment. If you don't have access to a printer, then if you could write out like 1 down payment, 2 amount financed, 3 amount due to points, 4 monthly payment, 5 total paid, 6 total amount of interest paid, 7 rent paid over the 30 years. And if you're writing this out on paper, it will only get credit if you write 1 and then you write down payment and your answer, 2 amount financed and your answer, 3 amount due to points and your answer, 4 monthly payment and your answer. So you're labeling it with both a number and a word description. 5 total paid, your answer, 6 total amount of interest, your answer, 7 amount paid over 30 years and your answer. So you've got a few options. If you can get this file either digitally or printed, that is preferred. But if not, very clearly and nicely write it out on notebook paper, and then you can upload that picture as well. So if you have any questions about this assignment, please reach out to me. I'm very happy to help you, and I'll see you as we complete this course. Thank you.